Nothing beats the feeling of a luxurious towel when you step out of the shower. Wrap yourself in nothing but the best with the My Pillow towel set. Guys, I've got these towels. They're the only ones I order right now. I absolutely love them. They're soft to the touch without any of that lotiony feel. For a limited time, get the My Pillow 6-piece towel set regularly $109.99 for only $39.99 right now. Go to mypillow.com and click on the radio listener square. Enter the promo code Carter, that's CARTER, or call 1-800-685-7221. While you're there, take advantage of the deep discounts on all MyPillow products, including the Giza Dream bed sheets and MyPillow premium pillows. Get your MyPillow 6-piece towel set for only $39.99. Only with my promo code, guys, Carter, CARTER. Call 1-800-685-7221 or visit mypillow.com today.
This episode of the Sarah Carter Podcast is sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Never forget, join the Tunnel to Towers Foundation on its mission to do good in honor of America's heroes. Donate $11 a month at t2t.org. That's T2T.org.
Love the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. It's just amazing. Only $11 a month. Look, today is going to be one of these episodes where we have to wake up and really face what is happening in our country. We have to take one moment, and I'm bringing on the very person that can do that. It's Derek Maltz, and he is not only been a friend of mine and someone who I trust implicitly, but he is someone who is fighting for our children, for our children's lives, and against the drug cartels that, and by the way, the Chinese Communist Party and other adversaries that are intent on destroying our nation with fentanyl, which is a weapon of mass destruction, with narcotics, and our own addiction that we've got to face. But I really want you to listen to Derek because he's going to change the way you see this. And I guarantee you, if you listen to this episode, and I'm not just saying this, you may end up saving the life of your own child or of someone you know, some other child, or yourself, right? This is what's happening in our country today, and it's terrifying. The amount of narcotics and poison, literal poison that is on our streets. It is killing our children. We need to wake up. We need to pay attention to this. I want you to know who Derek Maltz is. I know I said his name over and over again. Maybe some of you have seen him testify before Congress, but he was the special agent in charge of the United States Department of Justice Drug Enforcement Administration. He's a special operations division, head of the special operations division from May 2005 until July 2014. Think about what he has seen, what he has witnessed, and why he is so concerned. You'll see him frequently on Fox News. And, you know, there is nobody else in the world that I think is better than explaining that. This is going to be a tough episode, but it's one that we all need to listen to because what? 93,000. This is lowballing it. This is a lowball estimate. 93,000 Americans literally overdosed last year, according to the CDC. 60% of those people were actually killed by fentanyl. Think about that. I just want you to think about it for a minute. But before I get there, before I get to my monologue and fill you in on everything that's going on, now is a critical time to be vigilant in defense of our freedom. There is no better way to do so than by joining the Association of Mature American Citizens. Guys, AMAC is it. AMAC believes in fighting the good fight against reckless government spending and the ever-expanding scope of federal government, helping small businesses. That's what we're all about. That's what I'm about, securing our borders. You've seen me every night on Sean Hannity talking about this, and supporting our military and respecting our veterans like my husband, Marty. By joining AMAC, you are taking the first steps to saving the America that you love. AMAC offers an alternative to just about every benefit that AARP offers, that other group, but without that liberal agenda. I stand with AMAC, and I hope that you will too. I encourage you to join today at amac.us/Carter. That's CARTER. That's AMAC.us/Carter. The benefits of membership are great, but the cause, guys, is even greater. Join today at amac.us/Carter. So where do I start? With the AP story, maybe. Maybe that story will rattle some brains. I already said over 93,000 Americans have died. They died last year. Think about that. Think about that when you're thinking about, maybe the amount of people that died in Afghanistan or on September 11th. God help all of those that have given their lives in defense of this nation or whose lives have been taken by enemies of our state. Well, let me tell you this, 93,000 plus, and that's a low ball estimate, people died from drug overdoses in this country. And this isn't just people that you see on the streets. By the way, I got to tell you a quick story about what happened to me today before I got here. I told Greg, the producer, and he was just like, he was literally on the phone with me while it was happening. So I'm driving back from Georgetown today in Washington, D.C., trying to get home in time to do some errands. And I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There was a man literally standing in front of someone's, brownstone home right there on one of the streets in Georgetown. He had their hose in his hands and he was completely butt naked from the waist down. He had dropped his pants and was giving himself a bath. Like I was watching this happen right before my very eyes. So when I talk about, like, when you think of drug addiction, when you think of people on the streets, I mean, that's really sad because I don't know if this man was mentally ill or not. I tell you this, I didn't want to see it, right? This is happening all across our cities, in Chicago, in Washington, D.C., in Baltimore, in Detroit, in L.A., in New York City. We're seeing this more and more. Just a deterioration. This is someone's home. These are $1 million homes, by the way, in Georgetown. So I'm not just saying that to say that. I mean, there was just a man. Can you imagine if the person that lived there walked out with their children? I don't know. It's pretty scary. It's pretty daunting. But I'm not just talking about people that live on the streets, which is sad enough. We have a serious homeless crisis in our nation, one that we need to address, and a serious drug addiction crisis in our nation. But I'm talking about our children and our families and our cousins. And whether you're middle-class family or you're a poor family, or whether you're an upper middle-class family or whatever, drug addiction knows no bounds. It's like a monster out there that we are not paying attention to. Remember that commercial? I don't know if you remember it, but like from the 1980s and 90s, it was a big elephant walking in the room and everybody was ignoring it. And it had to do with alcoholism. Our nation right now is being targeted. It's being targeted by our enemies, by our adversaries like China and Russia and everybody else. And believe me, the Chinese know, even if it's Chinese criminal organization that are bringing in fentanyl through Mexico into our country, the CCP knows, because the CCP knows when somebody picks up a phone and starts text messaging somebody overseas, and if they say anything against the CCP, they disappear off the streets of Beijing. So if the CCP can target someone text messaging on a phone, they can definitely know if there's some trans criminal organization operating outside of China, moving fentanyl into Mexico to be brought into the United States. Roughly 60% of those 93,000 plus people, on a lowball estimate, right, were killed by fentanyl, the majority of which comes from China. This is irregular warfare on our people. But more importantly, and I tell this to my own children, it's like a monster has been unleashed in our country, right? Our kids can literally order, this is illicit drugs, right, on Snapchat and Facebook and Google. Like, well, they don't stop that, do they? They stop President Trump from talking to you. God help if anyone has another idea outside of the Biden administration or the leftist narrative on anything. They'll definitely put a kibosh on that. But boy, some reason or another, our children can order narcotics on all of these social media platforms. And by the way, those drug dealers that are advertising on these platforms will happily deliver, these fake pills that pose as Xanax or Percocet or Oxycodone to our children. And some of them will actually die from this. In fact, a large majority of our kids, because if you think about that 93,000, it was over 50% of the people that died of overdoses last year during the horrific COVID lockdowns died of fentanyl. I want you to listen to this clip. This is a couple, a married couple, talking about the loss of their daughter and how stunned they were. This is a middle-class American family who literally lost their child because they had no idea that fentanyl was so readily available in these fake pills that are being sold all over the streets of America.
Never want another parent to feel what we're feeling now.
It never occurred to me that it would be this fentanyl.
When they told me that in the last 4 days, 6 people had OD'd on fentanyl, I was like, why is nobody talking about this?
Andrew and Dion Butler agonized by the sudden, unexpected loss of their 17-year-old daughter, Clara.
This is the last photo I took of her that night. She knocked on the door. I heard her say, Clara, you need to get up.
And she was dead. Clara was dead. Their 17-year-old beautiful daughter made a very, very bad decision that night. She decided to get a Percocet off Snapchat or whatever, and it happened to be laced with fentanyl. And just any alteration in that fentanyl, any enhanced amount of that fentanyl in any pill that's made in some godforsaken place in Mexico, mixed up, concocted in some warehouse. They don't care. The drug cartels don't care that they're killing their clients because they have more and more and more. They don't care about you. Don't listen to anybody who tells you that. These are terrorist organizations. Nuevo Jalisco, Nuevo Generación, the Sinaloa cartel, the two biggest ones, fighting over territory, fighting over the United States, and they are aiding and abetting adversaries of the United States to conduct irregular warfare on our country. And guess what? We're not paying attention because we're so immune or desensitized to the drug issue, to the drug war. It's like, oh, marijuana is legal. Do you know they're lacing pot with fentanyl? Do you know that they are lacing, these are the drug cartels and drug dealers, cocaine with fentanyl? And you want to know why they're doing this? And they're lacing opioids with fentanyl. They're doing this so that if by chance your kid does survive using that, they will be so addicted, they will never be able to get off of it. They will not be able to get off. It is that powerful. It is beyond anything that they say people can imagine. I remember Heidi Riggs, who's amazing, and she is in the documentary I did in 2018. By the way, Derek Maltz and I and Heidi all testified before the Ohio State Legislature about fentanyl and about these Mexican drug cartels. We asked, and they did symbolically make them terrorist organizations. And Derek's going to explain later on in the interview with me why under the Trump administration did we not designate, even though President Trump was very close to doing so. How come we failed in, I guess I would say our government did, in failing to designate these cartels terrorist organizations? And he'll explain why, and the bureaucracy and the policies that are just so backwards here in Washington, D.C., and the reason why a lot of these issues fall apart. But we can't afford to let them go. We cannot afford it. We as parents, as Americans, we have to stand up and fight it. You and me, our children mean that much to us. This is about our kids. My gosh, you know what I would tell people? If you knew a child predator, a sex predator, was hanging outside of the school where your child goes to school, would you not just rush down there and just do whatever it takes? I also said something. Do whatever it takes to save your child's life, to keep that predator away from your child. I am telling you right now, you have to do the same thing with the drug dealers. You have to do everything in your power to stop it. You have to teach your kids at a very early age to say no. You got to scare them. You got to scare them and scare them good, or you'll lose your kid. You'll lose your child. That scares me every single day. That's something I think about all the time. Heidi Riggs lost her daughter, Marin, and Heidi became a very close friend of mine. She still is. She's in Ohio. She's still fighting the good fight. She's in the documentary, which I hope you all take a moment to watch. It's called Not in Vain. And you can find it on my website, my foundation's website. It's thedarkwire.com. That's thedarkwire.com. And Not in Vain is spelled VEIN. Not in vain. And this is a fight that you and I all have to fight, right? This is something that you and I, as mothers, as fathers, as aunts and uncles and brothers and sisters, and many of us know people who have addiction issues. We have to fight for them. But I'm going to tell you why it's not just about addiction. It's about our adversaries poisoning us. It's like a Trojan horse in this country. We are seeing an increase in deaths like we have never, ever seen before. In the AP story, it talks about the 21,000 increase from the year before is the biggest year-to-year jump since the count rose by 11,000 in 2016. So before COVID, it was like there was 21,000 less deaths a year before, right? Think about that. And overdose deaths, it says this in the AP story, are just one facet of what was overall the deadliest year in U.S. history during COVID, with about 378,000 deaths, they say attributed to COVID-19. The nation saw more than 3.3 million deaths. Suicide, COVID, drug overdose. It's pretty daunting. And it's not going to go away by us ignoring it. We can't ignore it. Much like I could not ignore the man whose pants were pulled down on that street in Georgetown and using someone else's hose to clean himself off. I could not ignore that. And I was thinking to myself, I could pretend like I didn't see that, or I could talk to you all about it, and I hope nobody's eating, and give you all that same vision in your head. I don't want you to ignore what's out there, what we are dealing with as a nation. It's tough. It's tough. I know we don't even want to think about it. I don't even want to think about it. But I have children. My husband and I have 6 kids between us. We love them all. And we all want them to understand that this is not something you play around with. We need to get PSAs out there. We need to warn people. We need to warn them by word of mouth. If every single one of you who's listening to this show does that, you will save a life. And then we've got to hold our government accountable for not doing enough, to stop this. We got to hold our lawmakers accountable. We've got to hold our government officials accountable. We have got to do everything we can to save lives. That is what we have to do. That is what we have to do. We do have some good news, though. Before I get to Derek, and I'm going to give you his bio again, because I want you to understand what a great guy this is. You do not want to miss this. If you want to save someone's life, listen to Derek Maltz. And if you want to be a part of doing something amazing in this nation and saving our nation and saving future generations of Americans, you're going to listen to Derek Maltz. But I wanted to tell you, I don't know if you all had a chance to see the Sean Hannity episode where I went down to the Antelope Valley with Congressman Mike Garcia, and we exposed some of what they called it was crazy. These illegal marijuana grows that were basically making billions of dollars for cartels in Armenia, Russia, China, Mexico. They were shipping the proceeds of whatever they sold from the Antelope Valley. The money was going back overseas to even fund wars in some cases. We broke the story big on Sean Hannity, on Fox News. And now there's actually some really good news. The sheriff's office busted during the operation that happened afterwards. This is LA County Sheriff's Office, over 16 tons worth of illegal marijuana grows in California's Antelope Valley. In California's Antelope Valley. How amazing is that? So I think what we know now is that if you speak up, if lawmakers like Congressman Mike Garcia, when he said, okay, you know what? No one's doing anything. I'm going to speak out. I'm going to go to the news. I'm going to tell Sarah Carter. We're going to get it out there. The American people are going to know what's going on here in Antelope Valley, and the families who stood up to these drug cartels in Antelope Valley, they won. They are the winners here. 16 tons worth of illegal marijuana grows just gone. People arrested. They're going to be thinking twice, these drug cartels, about growing marijuana back in the Antelope Valley and shipping all of that overseas for God only knows what. So congratulations, Mike Garcia. Congratulations, residents of California's Antelope Valley. You are the winners here. You have just shown Americans that we can beat this if we stick together. So I want to tell you something that we can also do, and it's taking a little break for ourselves, right? I know there's a lot of stressful issues out there, but sometimes what I like to do is just go outside and garden. I love that. If you're on my Instagram, you might have seen some pictures of me with my daughter in the garden or me with my animals in the garden. And that's why I'm so happy to have this sponsor with our show, and it's fastgrowingtrees.com. They are amazing. It's called fastgrowingtrees.com. They are the world's largest online nursery. Whether you're looking for shade, privacy, fruit trees, or you just want to add some color to your yard, which I love to do, every plant is shipped with a well-developed root system, ready to explode with new growth. And for all of you out there who have green thumbs like I do, or even if you don't have a green thumb, this is an easy way to start. You plant your fruit tree and you watch it grow. And guess what? They will completely help you with what you need. You won't be planting a fruit tree that isn't for your particular region with this group, with fastgrowingtrees.com. I love fastgrowingtrees.com because it makes a difference in my life. It actually gives me a moment to go out with my family, get away from all the news, get away from all the craziness of our world, and just spend some time in nature doing what I love, which is gardening. No matter where you live or your gardening expertise, Fast Growing Trees ships directly to you from their selection of thousands of high quality shrubs, trees, and plants. Now through July 31st, go to fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter. That's fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter for 15% off. That's 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter. fastgrowingtrees.com/Carter. Now, without any further delay, I have the wonderful Derek Maltz on with us. Remember, he worked with, and I've said this before, with the United States Department of Justice, probably one of the best guys I know, probably one of the good guys in our crazy bureaucracy that actually meant everything he said and everything he says. And, somebody who wasn't afraid and is not afraid to stand up to the drug cartels. He headed the DEA's Special Operations Division from May 2005 through July 2014. He previously held the position of Associate SAC, which is Special Agent in Charge of the New York Drug Enforcement Task Force. So this guy knows his stuff, and there is nobody else who I would want to speak on behalf of my children or fight these bad guys other than Derek Maltz. Hey, Derek, thank you so much for joining me today. This is going to be a really tough episode, and one that you and I think you especially have dedicated your life to, and it's saving the lives of our children in our country and saving the lives of American citizens and people in this country that have been literally ripped apart by the drug cartels and by the increase in addiction in our nation. So first, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you do, Derek. And I want to just thank you for being on the show, because I think so many parents need to heed the warning that you have for them.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. So I really appreciate it. And that's really like my primary focus right now is providing support back to the families. So working together with this awareness campaign, we can all save some lives. And the parents have to get the warning message because right now the mainstream media, unfortunately, is not providing the truth. I mean, the bottom line is the cartels in Mexico are the enemies of our children. They've engaged in a sustained, deadly assault against our youth. They're working with the Chinese transnational criminal organizations, and they're dropping poison throughout our country everywhere. It's not just the big cities. It's in urban areas, rural areas, it's suburban, it's everything. And, this is not a red or a blue issue. It's a red, white, and blue issue. And we have to save the lives of these kids because they're taking stuff that's coming from labs in Mexico and they have no idea what they're taking. And that's the problem. It's poison.
That's right. It is poison. I want to just let everybody know out there, if you haven't seen this story, you should. U.S. overdose deaths hit record 93,000 during the pandemic. 93,000 lives gone. And that estimate basically far outweighs the 72,000, which I thought was enormous, of drug death overdoses the year before the pandemic. What do you think's going on here, Derek? Why are we seeing this massive increase in overdose deaths as well as addiction rates?
Well, first of all, listen, the statistics are wrong. They're way underreported. There was a study from Georgetown University in 2016 that reported about how they calculate deaths and classify them, what drug type. Like if you look at COVID, we had every day on national TV, we had COVID cases and COVID deaths broadcast real time. But this fentanyl stuff is killing at a very alarming rate, and we can't get statistics that are accurate. But that's another story for another day. Bottom line is 254 kids are dying. Young Americans are dying. Most of these deaths are from fentanyl that are coming from labs in Mexico. But probably the most disturbing thing is many of these kids think they're taking legitimate prescription pills, right? And
right.
that's
So that's
the
the thing. But the parents don't even understand this. They're not even warning their children. So they're in college, for example. Eric Bolling's son, it was the same incident that happened with him. He used to work at Fox News. His son was in college. I think you know the story. He took a pill. He had no idea. I think it was a Mexican Blue. Maybe thought it was a Percocet, thought it was an Oxycontin. And what it was a fentanyl. It was laced with fentanyl and it killed him. It was an immediate death. And I don't think enough people realize this.
So, Sarah, let me give you the greatest statistic that I've been using, but it actually hits home. So the Mexican oxy pills, like you said, the Blue 30, the M30, they have a lot of names for them. They look like Oxycontin pills, but they're made in these labs in Mexico, and they're using pill presses, and the chemicals for this are coming from China. But here's the point. In 2015, the Phoenix DEA office seized 0 Mexican oxy counterfeit pills. In 2020, there was 6 million. So it went from 0 to 6 million. And here's the progression: 20,000, 54,000, 380,000, 1.4 million to 6 million. That's one DEA office in one part of the country. Those pills are flooding communities all over. So when a kid's out and his buddy says, hey, take this Oxy, take this Percocet, take this Xanax pill, that is like playing Russian roulette, because the DEA lab, Sarah, did a recent analysis. 1 in every 4 pills had a lethal dose. 26% of the pills they analyzed were lethal. That means 6 million pills could have killed 1.5 million people. And
I thought the Chinese Communist Party promised the Trump administration that they would stop this, that there was going to be some kind of stop in the flow of fentanyl that was going into Mexico and coming into the U.S. But we haven't seen that. We have not seen that. And some people attribute this to some type of irregular warfare against the United States. What do you think?
Right. Well, first of all, I've been saying that for a few years now, because I watched the chemical attack starting in 2009 when I was the head of the Special Operations Division. They started making the bath salts and the K2 and the spice. Then they went to the wholesale level of fentanyl. The Trump administration, from everything I know, definitely curtailed some of the bulk, smuggling of fentanyl directly to the U.S. and some of the analogs of fentanyl, right? So the pressure on China seemed to help. But here's what everyone has to realize. Chinese, they're very smart, right? So now they've weaponized America's drug addiction as they continue to drive towards destabilizing our society. And they're using the cartels as doing the dirty work. So all the chemicals for the production of fentanyl and, by the way, production of meth are going right into these labs in Mexico. So China is also, Sarah, picked up their role for all money laundering services of the Mexican cartels. So the cartels, without the money and without the chemicals, can't make the supply. Their production would be gone. They wouldn't have the ability to do it like they're doing it now. And they're also set up not only in Mexico, but in Canada. They're making this stuff in Canada as well. So China's super smart. This is part of their unrestricted warfare. And we're just not putting it together because people don't want to talk about the politics.
When is it that people are going to wake up and actually demand that something be done with this? I mean, how many more children have to die? I know you brought a photograph on Fox News. We were talking about it before we came on. I'd like you to show that. Yeah. So for any one of you out there that isn't watching this on YouTube or Rumble, I would appreciate you got to see this. And tell me a little bit about Alexandra and what happened to her.
So Alexandra Capilouto was at Arizona State University. She came home for the Christmas break to spend time with her family, which is like all of our kids. Unfortunately, she went onto Snapchat and she ordered a counterfeit OxyContin pill. Obviously, she thought she was getting a real OxyContin pill. It was delivered to her house by the actual dealer on Snapchat, and then the parents found it dead. So the father sent me this photograph and asked me to take it down to the border rally. I went down in Arizona in June to talk about this problem with the drugs flooding our country. And unfortunately, Sarah, that's only one of many, many stories. As you know, right. I've been creating photo collages. I'm up to like about 1,500 kids, 16 collages, but I can't keep up with the photos because these are new type of stories. These are not the stories of somebody super duper addicted and they're taking, all these drugs. They go to heroin, they're shooting up heroin. No. This is kids that are at school. There's COVID madness. There's depression, social anxiety, right? Kids are having a hard time. So they're starting to take these pills because they see mommy and daddy are taking Xanax, for example, right? So they don't realize they're not getting Xanax. They're getting these poisonous pills from Mexican labs. And that's the problem. This is what's new. We've never faced this in the history of the country.
I know. And this is what I think. You and I have been talking about this for years, right? And yes. I can't seem to wrap my head around the fact that our own government isn't doing enough to stop this. And there's been a failure across the board. I know the Trump administration was working diligently and trying hard to address this issue, but there were even people within the Trump administration that were not taking this seriously enough, not saying, hey, wait a minute, something's going on here. Our children are dying. We have drugs coming across our streets. This isn't about, you're right, the drug addict, which is still a sad story to me. The heroin addict on Skid Row or somebody who's down and out. This is about children in middle-class neighborhoods, upper neighborhoods, poverty-stricken. It doesn't matter where you're from, what your background is, what your religion is. These drugs are targeting our children across the board, almost as if we released a virus in our community and it's killing our kids and no one is paying attention.
So Sarah, one thing that should be very alarming to the administration is that if you look at the first 9 months of 2021, the fiscal year, right? So far, CBP, and they've done an amazing job, not only on the border making the seizures, but reporting on the statistics. 234% increase from the first 9 months of 21 compared to 20. So far, there's 8,507 pounds of fentanyl that's been seized by CBP, right? And Border Patrol, right? And last year, for the entire year, there was only 4,776. So the significant increases, but can you imagine what's getting into the country? Because remember, our Border Patrol is spending a lot of time on migrant care as opposed to border security. That's another whole story. But Sarah, let me tell you something that you probably don't realize right now, which has really got my blood pressure up. So not only is the current administration not really talking about it, but they're preventing, like, for example, executives from the DEA to get on national news media to speak about this.
Right.
How do I know this? Because Maria Bartiromo tried to get a top-notch DEA executive to get on her show, and the DOJ said no. They have a new policy. All national news stories must come through DOJ. That's really
right.
no
It's
secret.
happening all across the board. It's happening with
Yeah.
Border Patrol. It's happening with Immigration and Customs Enforcement, DEA, FBI. Nobody can get anyone to tell us anything. It's like they
Right.
don't want the American people to know. I want to play a quick clip, and then I want you to respond to it, because this is Ted Cruz. This is last month. He's discussing the huge rise in drugs seized coming across the border. Senator Ted Cruz, listen to this.
Fentanyl seizures this year are up 264% over last year. Cocaine seizures are up 149% from last year. And according to CBP, the southwest border is the key entry point for most drugs.
Why aren't we doing anything about this? It goes right to your question.
Sarah, for 20 years, like, the cartels in Colombia are very smart. They turned over all the duties to the Mexican cartels. Chapo Guzman and other cartels forever have been dominating the distribution of drugs into America. Estimates that 90% of the drugs are coming over the southwest border. But what's different now is, like, you look at the migrant smuggling, which I know you're an expert at this, and I appreciate all your coverage. The amount of money that the cartels now are making on the migrant smuggling is making their overall billion-dollar enterprise a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. So they have plenty of money to continue the production of these poisonous drugs. You know, we don't talk a lot about methamphetamine, but already this year, like, I think there's 140,000 pounds of meth that have been seized at the border. But if you look at some of the seizures that have been made around America, like, for example, in January, Dallas had like 2,000 pounds of record breaker. They had 3,000 in LA, 2,000 or 3,000 in San Diego, 2,000 pounds of meth seized in Atlanta. So we're starting to see, like, these amazing massive seizures. That's because the cartels have their command and control leadership positioned in all the hub cities around America, and they have no problem getting the workers coming in. And so the southwest border is the start of this madness, but it's the cartels, and they have to be dealt with. But unfortunately, our current administration doesn't want to call them out because they want to work the politics with Mexico and the corrupt government officials, which I can understand, right? It's a new administration. You want to do that, but not when your kids are dying at record levels. Going back to the last segment, look what DOD did with the movement of migrants in the planes. And then the lieutenant colonel broadcast not to put it out on social media. If you're proud of moving migrants to other cities, tell the American public what you're doing.
Well, they're not proud. They're not proud, Derek, because they're doing it behind our backs. Now, the reason why they're doing it, I can't explain. I can't explain why they would allow our nation to be poisoned, why they would allow the Chinese Communist Party to conduct irregular warfare against the United States. That's what I call it when it comes to fentanyl, when they're not stopping it. Why the Chinese Communist Party is also helping launder the money for the drug cartels in Mexico, because we know that that's happening as well, and no one's addressing that issue. And I want to play this clip because I know we have dealt with this in the past, but this is Antonio Garcia. I think you know who he is. He's the executive director of the South Texas High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, and he's talking about how open borders get people killed through drug trafficking.
I come to you because you, as this body, have to do something to correct our judicial system. You have to do something to fix this. And so I'm providing you my experience and my expertise in law enforcement to tell you whether it is the Biden administration or whether it's the prior administration or any other administration that comes after. If we don't secure our border and if we don't curtail the amount of drugs that are coming into this country, our citizens will continue to suffer. And as a result, we have limited control over the violence, over the deaths, over the other types of crimes that are a result thereof.
Here we are. Children are dying, continually dying. We have people being killed at the border, even the migrants themselves. It's a humanitarian crisis. We've got children. I'm down there. I see it with my own eyes. It kills me. It breaks my heart. Not only do I know that some of the kids that are being brought across this border are being trafficked into the United States and have been abused, and some of the women that have come over, as well as some of the young men. And I know that on the other end, like when I'm at the border and 600 people are flowing in or 200, that on the other end, miles down, are the drug cartels moving huge amounts of narcotics into the US using these people as decoys, using the innocent people as decoys, moving their narcotics in. So not only are they killing them, but then they're moving drugs in to kill our own people. Granted, I accept responsibility that we're a nation of addicts or we have money, but that doesn't excuse our government and the Mexican government from ignoring what's happening at the border.
Right, 100%, Sarah. And yes, I know the Haida folks down on the border, and everything was on the money. I went in March and I testified at the Judiciary Committee, and unfortunately, I had to put these type of photographs on the record. These are the kids that are dying, and I was hoping that that would gain some traction with the public, with the congressional staff, because this is not about the politics. This is about now saving lives. Like, you would think people would recognize that point. Fine, we don't want to.
We did it with COVID. We did it with COVID. I mean, they
right.
locked everybody down. We couldn't even go out. I can't even get on an airplane right now without having a mask, even though I'm vaccinated. But nobody wants to talk about our kids or their addiction.
Sarah, so another point to make is this: like, there's been a lot of talk, and obviously you and I went to Ohio and testified to declare the cartels as terrorists. And obviously there was a lot of pushback from the bureaucracy in Washington. But here's the point. Tell me another terrorist organization around the world in the history of this country that has ever killed the amount of people in America that we have right now. You look at 9/11, 3,000 approximately dead. You look at Afghan and Iraqi war, which, by the way, my brother, as you know, came back in the body bag in Afghan war. That's 10,000 total in those three catastrophic events. That's only 1/10 of what we're having annually from the drugs. So how is it possible that nobody wants to deal with this death and destruction thing? I can't comprehend it. By the way, Sarah, on August 27th, there will be a rally by all the families in front of the Chinese embassy in Washington, D.C. to get some awareness on this issue. And the parents are really upset. They can't understand that the government is not acting. Like, I worked in the government, so I've seen some of the complacency. But if you're a taxpayer and your kid just died suddenly from fentanyl, you would think people would care and want to go ahead and do something. That's the problem now.
They just won't do it. They just won't do it. And I don't understand why. This is where I'm having a difficult time trying to understand what the government considers a crisis, right? So if the Trojan horse, let's say, because we've talked about this, Derek, and I'm bringing it up again. If the irregular warfare is to dump fentanyl into our society and to create even more powerful addiction, or not to even care that there's a trail of death behind it, just letting that go. I mean, what's going to stop the Chinese or anyone else? I mean, you're right. It's a move by the drug cartels that appears to be far or exceeds or is the same as any other terrorist organization. And we have, enemies of the state utilizing that as well to target our nation, but yet our nation's asleep at the wheel. Do you think that it's because it deals with addiction? Is that the reason why? Are people just like still of the mindset that, oh, this will never happen to my kids, or this will never happen in my family, and then all of a sudden they have to wake up one morning and realize it did, like Heidi Riggs?
Yeah, I mean, that's the old paradigm. There's a new paradigm now, and that's what all the parents are saying. Like, this is changing quickly, but typical government, they're still chasing like the doctors who may be overprescribing. I mean, look, the Washington Post did a nice investigative story. 100 billion opioids were dumped into America in a 9-year period. Nobody was ever really arrested in those corporate cartels for that negligence, right? Yeah, they got fined and life went on, but a lot of people got addicted, right? And we didn't have any PSAs. We weren't talking about this to the public. And people got more and more addicted. Then they started going to heroin. Unfortunately, the heroin had fentanyl in it and they were dying. But now what's happened is it's directly targeting the kids. Who takes Adderall these days? Most of the time it's prescribed to kids, right? And Adderall has methamphetamine in it. The DEA is putting out warnings, but the government's not talking about it. Like the people in HHS, the people in DOJ, DHS, they should be telling the public. This is a public service, public, safety warning that needs to be put out.
Why aren't we? Why aren't we putting out those? I asked for these PSAs. We testified to this. We begged for them to put out PSAs in the Trump administration as well as now in the Biden administration. I don't care who's in charge. Let the people know what's going on.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, nobody wants to talk about Mexico, the corrupt Mexican government, and the porous border where millions of people are flowing in. I mean, look at the numbers this month, 188,000 migrants, right? I mean, we could talk all day about that, but just look at the comparisons over the last year when Joe Biden says, it's a seasonal thing. Oh, really? Seasonal thing, huh? Look at the numbers this year compared to last year. But so Mexico and the politics with Mexico, the State Department is so bureaucratic and they're in their silos. They don't want to open up their eyes and look at the national security emergency we have from Mexico, from the cartels. But China also. Nobody wants to call out China.
Right.
But China looks at us as their greatest adversary. So the way to destabilize our country is kill our future generation. Right. And there's another whole.
Absolutely.
I personally think with this whole COVID thing and the deployment of COVID as a chemical weapon, that's another story too. But like personally, I've been watching this evolve, like I said, since like 2009. This isn't anything new with China and the chemicals, but we ignored it for all those years.
Well, you're right. And let's just look at this, the plain facts, the statistics. This isn't even hyperbole. We're not making this up. And these are low numbers, if the 93,000 overdose deaths last year, and that's on the low spectrum, we believe that's far higher. I agree with you, Derek, on that. But if we believe that, and we're taking that into account, just 93,000, which is a huge number, 60% of those overdose deaths, according to the CDC, were directly related to fentanyl. Related to fentanyl.
Let me interrupt you on that, Sarah. I don't disagree with what you just said, but if you look at the coroner's report from Ohio, the first 6 months of 2020, it was 85% directly related to fentanyl. But once again, tell me why we can't get accurate statistical reporting. We are in the year 2021. This is not 1940, right?
I've heard parents have had to fight the coroner's office. They've had to go in and fight the state and say, no, my child did not die of heart failure. My child died of a direct result of an overdose. And parents cannot get those numbers registered.
Exactly.
That was happening in Ohio.
Right. So that's the whole point, Sarah. Like the statistics are what they are. We got to use what we get. So even if you use 60% or 85%, it's still the massive amount of numbers of kids dying. You would think the government's responsibility is to deal with it. Now they're talking about this addiction stuff. And addiction is very important. Don't get me wrong. We got to get people treated. We got to spend money on it. We got to do education. But you can't treat anyone in the morgue. It's too late. You can't educate an 18-year-old kid after they died. So you have to be proactive and you can't react all the time. And the government doesn't do a good job at that.
So what can the government do?
Well,
what solutions, like what can parents do? I mean, I want to go protest with you. I want to go up in front of the Chinese embassy. I want to be a part of that. So Derek, I'm going to go with you and I want to stand there with those parents and I want to make sure that I'm there in support because I truly believe that this is a blight on our country and that we are really facing a critical time. But what can we do? What solutions could we have?
Well, first of all, thank you for offering that because the parents will be ecstatic to hear that you're willing to come out because you covered the border issue so well and you understand this stuff. It'd really be important for the parents to see that somebody at your level in the national media recognizes the pain that they're feeling. But first of all, the number one thing has to be the education to the public. They have to understand, like, my kid can't just take his buddy's Percocet or his buddy's Xanax. It's going to kill you. So they have to be more engaged. The parents need to be taught. I would have programs mandatory. Sarah, I got a question. We can have critical race theory taught in our schools, but we can't have the fentanyl poison and the fentanyl murders taught at our school. That one I don't understand. Okay. So let's change the messaging. This is fentanyl murders, fentanyl poisoning. It's not overdose. It's not addiction. A lot of these people are not addicted. The next thing is
Stop right there, because I want you to explain fentanyl, just for all of you out there, just 4 little grams of fentanyl on your skin could literally kill a grown man. And fentanyl is considered a weapon of mass destruction. I want you to explain that before we go to the next solution, so that parents really get it through their heads that this is not just an overdose. This is a poison.
So the synthetic fentanyl that's being made in labs in China or labs in Mexico, according to the experts, which I'm not a doctor, but 4 grains of salt or 2 milligrams can kill an adult. That means that 2.2 pounds of fentanyl, which is nothing, can kill 500,000 people. So that, just to put that into some sense of, you can relate to it. So when they're dumping this stuff into our country, millions and millions of these pills that are all over the streets, and the kids are taking them, they're going to die at record numbers. And that's kind of what's happening. So to me, it's no different than putting a biological weapon in Washington, D.C. You're putting a chemical weapon that's killing all these people. So we have to just re-message what we're talking about. We're not talking about, I get a Xanax prescription, I put it in my medicine box, and my kid takes a couple pills. No, those are legitimate Xanax. They're not going to probably kill you unless you take too many. All right, they're harmful. You shouldn't be taking them, but it's a whole different paradigm. But we have to put the targets in the spotlight. So the 2 targets on this current crisis are the Mexican cartels, specifically the Jalisco New Generation Cartel and the Sinaloa Cartel. They're fighting for the market with fentanyl. The second target is the Chinese transnational criminals. Some would argue it's the overall Chinese CCP. I don't have that evidence. I know what I know as an investigator my whole life. I know what I feel in my gut. It's a warfare, unrestricted warfare on our country. But we have to start calling it, and we have to put the resources. So we have to declare them a priority target, whether we call them terrorists, whether we call them transnational criminals, whether we call them, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're killing Americans at record levels. So we have to put the best and brightest in law enforcement, intelligence community, intel community, and any partner we could find around the world to go after 2 things: shutting down their production in their labs and taking away their financial incentives,
100%.
Stopping the flow of the money back to Mexico. And that's going to require a very, very intense effort by multiple experts in the U.S. government. Right now, that's not happening.
Right. And it will, for everyone out there, it will rile up these cartels. There's nothing they hate more than someone seizing their money, taking their financials, ensuring that they cannot pay out all the people that they have on there, because they literally have armies. These are mammoth, behemoth organizations that control everybody from people inside the Mexican government to people here in the United States. I want to know this, Derek, and this is what's perplexed me. When we testified in Ohio, just so you all know, Derek and I did testify along with the mother of Marin Riggs, Heidi Riggs. She's amazing. She's such an amazing woman who lost her daughter a few weeks after she had, I believe it was after Marin turned 20, right? Or 21, she had lost Marin. And so she's been an advocate and fighting to draw attention to this subject for years. We all testified. Why were people within the DA and other government officials all of a sudden so concerned and so worried that at that time, President Trump would actually designate several of the largest drug cartels in Mexico terrorist organizations? Why did they not want him to do that?
Well, for one thing, okay, it's the way the Beltway is. Everybody wants to be the center of attention. And so this was a problem because State Department wanted to continue out their political agenda, and they felt that the word terrorist was not a true fit. So if you look at the definition of a terrorist with the ideology, some could argue that the Mexican cartels are technically not fitting that description. But, however, this has evolved. Like the world is evolving quickly, right? So maybe they don't fit the little box of Washington, but they're killing more Americans than any terrorist organization in the history of the country. So what am I missing? So anyway, guys like Udom
Right.
Dillon, who is the acting administrator for the DEA, isn't it interesting now that he's off the job trying to make money that he's now signing letters for fentanyl is a weapon of mass destruction documents with Homeland Security? Did you see that document that they floated around where a bunch of these former government people came out of the woodwork and they signed that fentanyl?
But they didn't do it then. But they
They
didn't
didn't
do it
do it
then.
when they were working, because now they can make money as these expert consultants. That's the difference. It's all about the money, not only with the bad guys, but with the quote unquote good guys.
That's a very sad reality. And that's something that I try to talk to people here on the show. I know all of you out there listening to Derek and I, you've heard me say this before. That's how sometimes these people here in Washington, these lawmakers, these bureaucrats, that's how they operate, right, Derek? I mean, we're up against both sides.
Perfect example is when you work in the Department of Justice as a high-ranking attorney and your job is to prosecute cartels and corporate cartels. When you say no, it's probably because you're thinking about, you don't want to be tainted, so you can go represent the corporate cartels and make $700,000, $800,000 a year in these big law firms, which is what happens, by the way.
Right. So what do the parents do? What do we do as parents? Now we're out there, we're going to go up in front of the Chinese embassy, say no more to the CCP, ask the CCP, plead with the CCP to do something. Although in my personal opinion, I do consider this irregular warfare. I think the CCP, they're brilliant. They know what's going on here and they're allowing it to happen, even if they're not directly involved in it. But what do we say to our government, to our bureaucrats? How can we hold our lawmakers accountable so that they actually take some action on this and it's not all just talk and experts testifying? Because I feel like you've done everything you possibly can to draw attention to this, Derek. You are the one major voice out there fighting for these children.
So Ronald Reagan had a saying, I don't want to be political, but if you can't get them to see the light, make them feel the heat, right? So elected officials have to feel the heat. The White House has to feel the heat. You cannot be the Attorney General or the Department of Homeland Security Secretary without the responsibility of these kids that are dying. You can't just have the title and walk around with your bodyguards and your 24-hour, support. You have to take this serious because people are dying at record levels. That's not happening. So we got to get the awareness out there. We got to make sure parents understand that this is very, very lethal business. You don't have a chance after they're dead, right? So we have to start with that campaign first. Once we get the awareness, I mean, there's parents talking about hunger strikes in DC. There's parents talking about, standing out in front of the White House. But we have to stay focused on what the issue is, and that is Mexico and China. Let's not start talking about 20 years ago, the overprescribing started or whatever it was.
Right.
That's not the case today. So all the lawmakers have to be held accountable. And in November, during election time, they have to be held accountable because elections have consequences.
That's right. So what would be your advice now before we have to wrap this up? What would be your advice to the Biden administration as well as to the lawmakers out there? How can they make a difference?
So they first have to wake up and understand the problem. Right now, they're not. I just listened to President Biden's speech. They're still talking about the old issues with addiction.
We have that. I have a clip of that. I want to play a little clip of that, and then I'll have you respond to that.
Okay,
listen to this. This is President Biden's plan to fighting the drug crisis in the U.S.
We need to meet this crisis with urgent action. The American Rescue Plan I signed into law provides $4 billion to support mental health and substance abuse disorder care. It includes $1.5 billion for prevention and treatment, of more than $400 million to support community behavioral health clinics. And that's just the start. My administration is committed to expanding access to treatment, supporting proven prevention and recovery efforts, and reducing the supply of illicit substances coming into the United States.
I mean, it's pretty vague. I mean, I hear this over and over again. It doesn't feel like throw more money at it and talk around the issue and then hope that something changes?
So that's just typical Washington talking points, right? And don't get me wrong, treatment is important. Mental health, money is important. I'd rather spend the money on these American citizens than all the illegals coming in and getting free education, free welfare, and all this stuff, right? So I do think we have to spend a lot of money and do some catch up on treatment, prevention, education. All of that's great. But there's no talk anywhere in the news about focusing on the cartels and going after them like we never did before. Using not just law enforcement, but DOD, the intel community, and all the expertise we have in the private sector. And the parents need to start realizing this is what we need, because this other stuff is not going to stop the death and destruction. It's going to continue to escalate. The numbers are a lot higher. And if this is the type of attitude, he was almost falling asleep during that speech. I don't want to pick
I was
on him,
almost
but-
falling asleep. I was almost falling asleep when I was listening to him. I'm like, this is like one of those stories that your parents tell you when you're a kid and the monotone voice so that you'll just go to bed.
So, yeah. So, like, where is the sense of urgency on the deaths? Like, every day we woke up, COVID. And I'm not knocking COVID. I mean, a lot of people died, and including my aunt and uncle in the same week. But this is like something we've never seen, and it's not an alarmist. It's not trying to exaggerate. Just look at the numbers. It speaks for themselves. And by the way, Sarah, the other thing I could send you too, I collect the stories from the parents as well.
I would really like that.
Everyone is heartbreaking.
I would really like that. I would really like to dedicate part of my website to just putting those parent stories up there. Maybe we just need to do that, Derek. Let's just do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's
I'll just
a great
have
idea.
a special. Yeah, we'll just in the parents' own voice. I will publish it in their voice, and let's just put them up there so that parents have a voice, so that people have a place to go to. You are not alone. We have seen this over and over again in our own families, in our friends' families. We've seen so many wonderful, beautiful human beings die of drugs and narcotics, and some of them, it was just taking that one pill. It was like, oh, I'm in college. Somebody offers them a pill. They pop what they think is a Percocet or a Xanax, and it's not. It's an illicit drug that's been manufactured in some godforsaken factory somewhere in Mexico, and it kills a child. So this is about all of us protecting all of our children. Derek, I hope you come back on the show again real soon. Where can parents go now, Derek? Is there a place where they can go if they want to reach you, if they want to talk to you, if they want to help out?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's several Facebook groups right now, Lost Voices of Fentanyl, the Fentanyl Coalition are the two main ones that I operate on. And the stories are all there. You could get on easily. You could check it out. You could send me direct messages. I also have a national security, public safety Facebook group. It's a private group, but I let people in to talk about these important issues. But the main thing is that we got to just communicate, and I'm pretty accessible. So anybody that needs any information, they can reach me.
That's what's so great about you, Derek. I mean, look at, I think that what you've been doing is such a grassroots effort. This is like not anything that you're doing for yourself. For if you could all just, I think you get it listening to Derek Maltz right now, but he really is doing this from his heart. He really cares. He's a true patriot. He loves our nation, loves our children, wants to do the best that he can. This is not political. This is not about Republican or Democrat or independent or Green Party. This is just about us as Americans and saving our country and saving our children. Thank you so much, Derek. I'm going to have you back on real soon.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Thanks for all your work.
Wow. Today's podcast is sponsored by the Association of Mature American Citizens. It is the only conservative alternative to AARP, that other group. Go to amac.us/Carter. So I have to end this podcast on an up note. And I don't know if this really is an up note, but Jen Psaki is once again, Jen Psaki, the press secretary over at the Biden administration White House, she is once again trampling the Constitution. Is that on a lighter note here? I mean, you would think this was a joke if it wasn't so serious. Listen to Jen Psaki here.
Providing for Facebook or other platforms to measure and publicly share the impact of misinformation on their platform and the audience it's reaching. Also with the public, with all of you, to create robust enforcement strategies that bridge their properties and provide transparency about rules. You shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others for providing misinformation.
Oh, providing misinformation. Oh, you mean like the entire FBI and, by the way, Justice Department and Obama administration did against President Donald Trump and everyone else. And by the way, think about what she is saying here. She's saying that she needs to protect you, her and Biden. Isn't that weird? Like, would you really want Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, President Joe Biden, and Jen Psaki like babysitting you? They need to protect you from misinformation. What they're actually saying is that if the information doesn't agree with them, if they don't find it agreeable to what they are putting out, like Dr. Anthony Fauci and his back and forth craziness, which, by the way, was lies, we found out, apparently just saying whatever he wants to anybody about COVID and whether or not we should wear masks and not wear masks. He's another one. He's another one that thinks he should babysit you and that he should be in charge. That's what these folks are saying. See, I wanted to end this on a lighter note, but I'm not. This is crazy. This is crazy that we're watching people in Cuba rise up against my relatives. I mean, my people on my mom's side, right? Rise up against a dictatorship, a communist nation, and screaming for liberty and carrying the American flags. That is until the plainclothes Cuban secret police comes up and just drags them off and throws them into the back of trucks and cars or whatever the 1950s vehicles that they're driving around in Cuba still, because communism sucks, because communism is the worst thing that has ever happened to our planet, next to like the drug cartels, maybe. I don't know. They've both killed enormous amounts of people throughout history, right? Because it sucks. And here we have Jen Psaki pleading for some type of fascist communist state. You guys, you and I are the only thing standing between them and whatever crazy plans they have. We have to continually speak out. We have to defend our children. We have to speak out. We have to demand more from our lawmakers. We have to stand together. We are no longer silent. We are not the silent majority. And together, you and I will make a difference because we're not afraid to stand up to what's wrong. We're not afraid to say, hey, I'm calling you out on that, Jen Psaki. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And why does your last name have to be Psaki? Because I love sake, actually, if I'm drinking it at a Japanese restaurant. Anyways, thank you so much for being a part of the Sara Carter Show. I love having you here. I love reading your reviews. Go to saracarter.com. That's saracarter.com to get the latest and the greatest. You also find all my social media sites there, all my links. And remember to sign up for our email at saracarter.com. That way you do not get shadow banned. Remember, guys, it's here where we're taking the story back. God bless you. God bless the United States of America. And I hope we wake up tomorrow a free nation still. Today, I'm joined by Rebecca Weber, the CEO of the Association for Mature American Citizens, also known as AMAC. For the upcoming year, what are some of the biggest topics of advocacy for members?
As an organization that represents Americans 50 and over, we recognize that Social Security is such an important component to seniors' income. And so we also recognize that for someone my age, for example, Social Security, I may not see my entire benefit unless something is done soon. So we promise to fight to keep Social Security solvent. We've got what's called the AMAC Social Security Guarantee. Information is found on our website. We're also pushing for transparency in healthcare. We want to eliminate surprise billing. Sara, another great proposal that we have out there, which is got over 22 co-sponsors now, is AMAC's pro bono healthcare bill, which essentially allows doctors to take a healthcare deduction and provide doctor services to individuals that are currently on Medicaid. We project that it could save billions of dollars in Medicaid, but also it provides for those lower income folks to have and build a real doctor-patient relationship.
Rebecca, thanks so much for being with me today. I'm honored to have you and AMAC as a sponsor for the Sara Carter Show. For more information, folks, visit amac.us/Carter.